Hello and welcome to this video. My name's Barry Beckham, and before we get started, please consider subscribing to my channel, and if you hit that notification bell you'll be informed whenever I post new videos. A thumbs up would be nice too, but only if the video's worth it. The subject here is the new Canon R5. Yes, I've just spent some of the kids' inheritance and I have the camera cradled in my hands. Now I'd like to make it clear that I'm an amateur photographer and I take no money at all from anyone in payment or sponsorship. So these are my first experiences with the Canon R5 mirrorless camera. It's a heavyweight and far more advanced than my previous cameras. Here's what I've learnt so far. At the time of this recording, I have not even ventured out to take any images with the camera. The only ones I've shot so far have been from my armchair as I spend a little time becoming familiar with the camera's menus and its capabilities. I'm a long-term Canon user and this camera looks very much the same as all my previous Canon cameras. But that's a pretty good thing, because we need as much familiarity as we can retain. I should mention that the camera uses a new type of lens mount called an RF mount. There is an adapter to allow our current EF lenses to be used on the Canon R5. This is just normal evolution of lens technology. It allows faster data transfer between the camera and the lens, which in turn allows for a better, more responsive focus and better image stabilization. The adapter's not massively expensive, but it is something many of us will need to consider. It's easy to be impressed with the 45 megapixels the camera can capture and also up to 8K video. Plus the in-body image stabilization, which many refer to as IBIS, and also how it can follow focus on the eye of moving people and animals. So as a long-term Canon user, how does the R5 mirrorless camera fit in and make itself at home in our camera bag? What are we going to love about it, and what will it be like in practical use? Are we likely to be disappointed at all? No, I don't think so. But we may have just a little learning to do. Now I'm someone of senior years who's coming to the R5 from a previous flagship Canon camera. For the past 12 years I've been a user of the full frame 20 megapixel Canon 1DS Mark III. Now that's been a really good camera, and when I sold it recently it was all still working perfectly. I was almost sorry to see it go. The Canon R5 mirrorless throws up just a couple of mountains for me to climb. One is the fact that the Canon R5 has more options, menus and ways to customize it than you can shake a stick at. The other is the touchscreen operation that we have to become used to. Now the touchscreen is the least of our problems, but if you've used a camera without these options for the past 12 years, then the saying old habits die hard come to mind. So even though I would class myself as an experienced photographer, the Canon R5's menu system does require my attention. So where do we start? Well, I didn't want to go out to shoot images and spend most of the time looking for ways to change simple settings. So what I've done is to spend a few days with the camera, and I've learned about it gradually. I find cramming loads of information never works well for me, and I doubt it does for you either. So I don't even try. I kept the camera on the unit beside my chair, where it was convenient to pick it up whenever I thought of something I wanted to check, or I was in the mood for a refresher. I took my time and I didn't rush in, even though that was a little tempting. I started by going through the menus with the intention of setting up all those options that I generally set with my cameras, all those we're familiar with. But I got a bit of a surprise on the very first menu item file formats, because I was asked to choose between one of two RAW formats, Canon's standard RAW format or C-RAW. Now, I've been using RAW files for quite a number of years and they've met all my needs, so my first skeptical thought was, what is this C-RAW, and is it going to offer me something important or just fill my head with information I could really do without right now? So here's the basics of what I found online. C-RAW are compressed RAW files, and it said C-RAW files are slightly lossy in format. So that throws up the obvious question. What are the image quality differences between Canon RAW and C-RAW file formats? Now, the author I was reading who tested this stated, "You're going to be challenged to find any." The author suggested that if we couldn't see the differences at 100% resolution, it's unlikely that we'll ever notice them. Given my experiences over the years with JPEGs and some of the nonsense I've heard about them, I am inclined to agree with the author here. With this new C-RAW format, I can capture a lot more images onto my 64 gig card than I can with the standard RAW, but perhaps having smaller files may be the advantage we want to get. I don't know about you, but I can't imagine Canon spending millions to develop some of the best cameras and lenses money can buy, and then deciding to throw away quality with a duff RAW format. I'm a natural skeptic, but on this score I trust Canon. So my setting is C-RAW. I've set my auto white balance and also the color space to Adobe RGB. And I've also set the picture style to standard too. Picture style and auto white balance is almost irrelevant when we're shooting RAW because we can always change those settings after the image has been captured. One of the Canon R5's main claims to fame is its in-body image stabilization, which, as I've said, I think many people refer to as IBIS. Now, I've wondered how that would work with lenses that are also image stabilized. If we put our camera on a tripod, for example, would we need to turn off both the camera and the lens stabilization? I was initially confused to find that the in-body image stabilization menu option shown in the instruction book seemed to be missing from my camera, even though I'd seen it shown in YouTube videos. Well, what I've discovered is this. If an image stabilized lens is attached to the R5, even if that's an EF lens attached to the body via an adapter mount, the lens and its image stabilization on-off switch controls both the in-body stabilization and also the lens stabilization too. The IBIS menu item I couldn't find does appear when a non-image stabilized lens is attached to the camera. A little bit confusing at first, but logical once you know. My next selection from the menus was something a little more familiar to me. I turned on the highlight alert, often referred to as the blinkies. This is that blinking black shape that appears on the LCD screen to show overexposed areas of an image where detail has been completely lost. I've used that option for many years, and it's a regular part of my shooting style. I have read that the Canon R5 does allow the histogram to be viewed in the viewfinder, and at some stage I'll take a look at that option, but not now. I also set up back button focus, which is a must for me. I did make a video on this subject, which I'll link to below. Now, it's not my intention with this video to go through too many of the menu items because there just are so many of them. Many of them will be unimportant to us, or should I say less important to us, but in practical use there will be things that we're going to need to change quickly while the camera is in our hands and we're out shooting images. Now, one of the most versatile buttons to make these changes is the quick menu selector button on the back of the camera. One touch takes us to most of the settings we're going to need. Those settings include the autofocus options, the focus in for just one shot or servo operated, to be able to quickly select one of the 6 continuous shooting modes. We have the metering modes quickly at our disposal, and others too. The scroll wheels on the camera's body can still be used to select menu items, but really we're into this touchscreen technology. It's very quick and convenient. Another option which I've not seen before is that we can select either an electronic or a mechanical shutter. For now, I have stayed with the mechanical shutter until I can learn a little bit more about the electronic shutter's operation. But I'm pretty sure we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Maybe a completely silent shutter that can fire 20 frames a second will demand a little video all on its own. Thanks for watching so far. I will come back to other aspects of this camera as soon as I can, and we'll certainly look at the practical operation in more detail, including images, of course. Here I just wanted to share my experiences of getting to grips with this technical beast. Even as experienced photographers, we have to treat what this camera can offer us with just a little respect. I'll see you next time.